Welcome. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Friday. Man, we made it to the weekend. This is awesome. Today's show will be awesome as well. Steve Kim, Butter, of course, here in studio with me. Shemeka Michelle. Before I go too far, Butter, I do want to mention to people that at 3 o'clock we got a special show coming out. Remember the other day when Butter skipped the show because he was working on something? Well, what he's working on, we're going to debut at 3 o'clock. BYOG is the name of a new franchise we're going to start. I know many of you have been like, hey, I like the new show. I like you guys in the morning. I like the sports take. But Jason, we got used to you talking about stuff beyond sports. And I keep telling you guys, we are going to get back to that, but we're not going to do it here in the morning. But we're going to have some special content for you 2 or 3 times a week. And so we have the pilot episode of BYOG, Jason and Jeffrey, BYOG, Bring Your Own Guitar. It's a conversation between myself and Jeffrey Steele. We're going to bring in artists from around Nashville and have conversations, talk about music, talk about life, hear a little live music. And I think it went well. Butter, how do you think it went?
I thought it went great. I was really excited to see how you and Jeffrey would do together in that setting. You know, you're both these big personalities and sort of big stars, and you guys had a great vibe. A little American Idol at times, little judges kind of looking at these young, but at least this show, this was a young act. I thought you guys did great, man, and I'm excited for you. It's cool for me, who's always seen you and watched you in the sports lane, political. It was really fun to watch you chopping up some music.
Yeah, these kids, it's 3 kids. I think one is 21 and the other's 20 and 19. They're from the western part of Tennessee. They drove 3 hours, brought their family with them. The band is called Tennessee Backwater. Yep. They're really, really excited about a song they're releasing today, In God We Trust.
Yep.
It's the song they sent us that got us excited about, hey, these guys would be a great first guest for the pilot episode of BYOG. They performed. They did a great job with the performance. I think people will love the song, love their story a little bit. Seemed like three buddies that maybe, did it remind you anything of your own music career, Butter, starting out? Were you as young as those guys when you started out?
Yeah, I was, and I was never on a TV set that young or a show with, like Jeffrey Steele and Jason Whitlock. So you could tell that they were poised and that they were ready for it, but they were nervous. There was some puckering going on. They did good, though. They did really good.
They did. Some good old boys from Western Tennessee. So can't wait to debut that to you all later today at 3 o'clock. And it's just an appetizer. As you guys have been listening to me talk for the last several months, I got my house getting renovated. I can smell the goal line. I think we're about to cross the finish line at my house and get my studio in my house and do more of these type shows. We did it here from this studio this time, but this is just kind of a warm-up, get our feet wet. It was awesome. So anyway, listen, number one thing you guys can do before we get into today's topic is make sure you're supporting the Fearless Army by becoming a subscriber to the Fearless Mission. I need you all to go to fearlessmission.com, use the promo code Fearless40, and you can save $40 on your yearly subscription. This is the best thing you can do to support me, this show, what we're doing here with the Fearless Army. If you want the content we're giving you on this show, the content that I'm promising you, and going to debut a little bit of it later today, you got to hop on board and support what we're doing. Fearlessmission.com. Become a fearless soldier. Become part of the Fearless Army. We need you. We need the support because, listen, the algorithms, YouTube, it's great, and Apple and Spotify, all that stuff's great, but it's rigged against us. And that's why we have to go above and beyond and become subscribers to Fearless Mission. Fearlessmission.com. Become a subscriber today. Today's topic, or one of today's topics, I'm going to circle back to Caitlin Clark, WNBA, and I know some of you are like, I got an email from a guy that I want to start here and try to explain to you all again so I can make it crystal clear what it is I'm doing and why it's important. So I got an email from the title of it is Loyal Fan. Guy's name is Steve. I'm not going to give his last name, although he gives it and gives his phone number, but I'm not going to share that. But anyway, he writes, Jason, I've listened to every podcast since I was aware of you on Tucker Carlson show about 3 years ago. I have recommended Fearless to many people and especially enjoy the Tennessee Harmony segments, but just in general, love your analysis on all things political and am an active sports watcher. I have tried to track with you in terms of how the WNBA is somehow a reflection of society, but I'm finding myself yelling at the podcast for you to please stop. I've never met a person who's watched a WNBA game. You tell me Caitlin Clark is the Jackie Robinson of our time, except then one day you start ranting about how she's not respectful to refs. So I think the show is finally going to move on. And then also nobody's going to watch if she gets eliminated from the playoffs, and then proceeded to talk about nothing but the WNBA after she gets eliminated from the playoffs. I understand you lost your love for baseball, but do you really think more people are watching the WNBA playoffs than the MLB playoffs? It's not that I don't get the point you're trying to make. I was tracking with you when we were discussing the reporter who wasn't even allowed to ask about her getting poked in the eye. I think that's the frustrating thing, is that you keep talking as if anybody else on the planet is watching this stuff. Maybe if you sold it as if it was something we should be watching, but acknowledge that you're the only one watching it, it would be more bearable to hear you talk about it so much. Poor Steve Kim, signed Steve. This guy, not Steve Kim, but probably is Steve Kim ghostwriting me this. Listen, and I hear you, Steve, but if you're watching this show and actually listening to what I'm saying, I'm not sitting here X's and O'ing and talking about the game. I'm talking about bigger issues that are connected to the game. I'm using what's going on in the WNBA and with Caitlin Clark to explain what's going on in all of America. And I'm going to do that again today because it is a great analogy for what is going on in the world today. We are in a battle of good versus evil. We're in a battle of patriarchy versus matriarchy. We're in a battle of secular versus religious, secular versus Christian. And you can see it all in the WNBA. It's crystal clear in the WNBA. There's a little white girl, and the white has really nothing to do with it. I'm just using it as a descriptor. But there's a little girl that has turned the WNBA upside down, and primarily because it has to do with her playing style, but it also has to do with what she represents. She was raised by two Catholic parents in Catholic schooling. She's heterosexual. She hasn't jumped on board with all the lesbian stuff, the LGBTQ, the alphabet mafia stuff that everybody else jumps on board with. She hasn't jumped on board with all the racial idolatry that everyone else has jumped on board with. And by not doing those things, she has brought a fan base to the WNBA and excitement to the WNBA. And then furthermore, as I've described on this show, and it's just factual, she is the most fascinating and powerful athlete in America today. That's never been the case for a woman in America. That speaks to what's going on in this culture war. Are the women winning? Are men taking a back seat to women? Are men so satisfied and arrogant that we feel like we can cede this territory? You know what? We can turn the WNBA into our personal charity and let them make fools of themselves for 30 years and blow all kinds of money because, hey, we're just that generous and we're just that successful that we can spend, and we've been doing this since Title IX. Like, hey, how can we make women better athletes, better leaders? How can we make women more like men? That's what's going on, and that's what we're exploring. There's parts of me that absolutely adores and loves Caitlin Clark because she is maintaining a feminist and a feminine approach in comparison to her peers in the WNBA. That's a hardcore alphabet mafia league. Tatted up women, women with a real masculine motif that seems to be having a huge problem with this little Catholic girl and all of the fans that came with her that aren't on board with all the alphabet and all the racial worship that has been commonplace in the WNBA. And so if you can't understand how these things all apply to everything we're seeing in the world, that the alphabet group is actually controlling American culture and global culture. And that's why they're bending over backwards. Yesterday when I was talking about why is the Wall Street Journal writing a story about this big, bold, successful year that the WNBA is having and not mentioning Caitlin Clark? Why are they trying to credit Asia Wilson and Angel Reese and all this other stuff and all the work that Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA, all the foundational work that they've done? It's these people. It's not the little Catholic girl. No, it's the black lesbians and their supporters. They did this. That's what the Wall Street Journal article was all about. Crediting someone else and a different group of people with a different set of values and a different set of priorities with the success of the WNBA because they don't want to acknowledge that a little heterosexual Catholic girl is the sole reason for the success of the WNBA. They don't want that statement out there. They're trying to build a world, and they want an example of, look what the lesbians and the alphabet people built. That's what the WNBA represents. And so they want to put that story out there because they wanted you and your kids and the future of America to say, you know what? The nuclear family isn't really necessary. We've just built a sports league built around people in alternative mirages that they call marriages. Look what the alphabet athletes did. That's why they spent all of this energy and time. You're gonna love Brittany Griner. Oh, Brittany Griner's home from Russia and now she's a big star and she needs extra security and she's rich and famous. They wanted her to be what Caitlin Clark is. This stuff that I'm talking about, some of you guys, you have so much either animus or you're just so blind that you can't, because I'm hammering these points, I think, as clearly as I can possibly hammer them, that this conversation is much bigger than the basketball that's being played. It's what they're representing. When I say that Nike, when we talked about when Nike is like, hey, we're not going to promote Caitlin Clark. We're not going to put out a signature shoe for Caitlin Clark. We're not going to bend over backwards, maximizing and taking advantage of Caitlin Clark until we've promoted the hell out of Asia Wilson. Someone no one cares about, no one's going to buy her shoes. They're just pandering because she's a black woman. And that's the hierarchy and the structure they have. They want everything decided on skin color. And they get to decide who's successful and who's not successful. It's not on merit when we don't have a merit-based society. I'm bending over backwards trying. This is a great example of what's going on in America and how America is being destroyed. And I'm trying to use something that is for those of you that, because there's a million political shows, a million of them, that will tell you and explain to you the things that I'm explaining to you, but they'll do it from a political lens. There's only one sports show. There's only one sports person who will take what's going on in the sports world, and because one, I understand it's how vitally important it is. Because sports are the only thing that still draws a massive audience. 20, 30 million people will still watch a football game. 5, 10, 15 million will still watch a basketball game. The rest of these shows, everything else on TV, they don't draw big numbers. And so that's the foundational for today's example of what I want to give you and why I'm doing it. And today's example is, there's this so-called rival basketball league or unrivaled basketball league. They call it the Unrivaled Basketball League. TNT has invested in it. It's for women's basketball, and they're going to play 3-on-3 basketball during the offseason. And it's the dumbest idea that I've ever heard. And the Unrivaled Basketball League, there's a big conversation that's been going on the past 24, 48 hours. Michael McCarthy, Front Office Sports, wrote an article about how the Unrivaled Basketball League, which will be during the offseason of the WNBA, is trying to recruit Caitlin Clark. And I'm like, Caitlin, please do everything in your power. Avoid the Unrivaled Basketball League. It's a disaster in the making. You don't want to be associated with it. The league is not going to work. People will not, have no interest in watching women play 3-on-3 basketball. It's a dumb idea. You know what it is? It's controlled opposition. It's a gimmick to stop Caitlin Clark and anyone else from launching a true competitor to the WNBA. They don't want rivals, and that's why this has the perfect name, Unrivaled. Because they don't want a rival to the WNBA. Because, now let me connect the dots for you, because what they've done to American culture, they've eliminated competition. We don't have rivals. We don't have true competition. That used to be what America was built on. Our economy, our whole system, is there would be competition among Americans for a handful of dollars. And that's why things remain fair. Because if Kroger grocery store didn't treat you well, you would go to Marsh. If 7-Eleven didn't treat you well, you would go to, what's another gas station?
Circle K.
Circle K. There we go, thank you. If you didn't like Snickers, you would buy Payday. If you didn't like Payday, you're an idiot. You'd get Reese's. There used to, let me give you another. If you didn't like Fox News, you would watch CNN. But now, and now you can see it crystal clear. Fox News and CNN, they're on the same team. There's no competition. Fox News is controlled opposition. Everybody's in on everything together. If you don't like Crest toothpaste, trust me, what's another toothpaste?
AIM.
AIM, they're not in competition. They're all owned by BlackRock or Vanguard or whatever, and it doesn't matter. Doritos, Lay's potato chips, they could care less. Just grab a bag. If America were operating properly and in the old way and in the way that it was designed to work. A smart businessman would look and say, look at the WNBA. Look at that cash cow they got in Caitlin Clark. And look at them mistreat her. Look at them not lean into promoting her. If America were operating properly, another businessman would say, oh, I'm going to go snatch up Caitlin Clark and I'm going to build a different league, a competitive league, a rival to the WNBA, and I'm going to take them out because they don't know what they're doing. It's clear as day. They've been losing money for 27 straight years. They've been given a gift from God. They don't know how to take advantage of it. They are abusing it. They're pouring all their attention and energy into players that no one cares about. And a rival would swoop in and say, hey, Caitlin, come over here to this league. We're going to take those guys out. But that's not what we do in America anymore. That's not what we do in a global society. The elites have worked it out that there is no competition. Everything's a monopoly. Everything's a mirage. They pretend to be rivals when they're really working hand in hand. They control both sides of an argument. They control both sides of every issue. They take both sides on every issue. That's what's going on with the Unrivaled Basketball League. They don't want to compete against the WNBA. The WNBA, yeah, have at it. TNT, you want to do it? Yeah, go ahead, have at it. That's a bad product that will be embarrassing for whoever's involved in it. People don't want to see women play 3-on-3 basketball. They barely want to see them play 5-on-5 basketball if it doesn't involve Caitlin Clark. You have a 5-on-5 basketball movement for women that's just starting to grow. And here comes a group of idiots saying, hey, in the offseason, let's go watch this garbage 3-on-3 basketball. Let's let Angel Reese and the rest of these women really make fools of themselves and damage the brand of 5-on-5 basketball. Caitlin Clark needs to stay away from it. What needs to happen, and Charles Barkley, when I start talking about controlled opposition, and I can't figure out what Charles is doing, but he's made a comment here, and he was on a podcast with Matt Leinart and Turtle. I think Turtle from Entourage, his real name is Jeffrey Ferrara, I think. Looks a little bit like Butter. He and Butter could be, people ever call you Turtle? I'm sure you've heard that before.
He ain't in my league.
Anyway, they got a podcast and they had Barkley on, and Barkley made comments about Juju Watkins is going to be, and she was a freshman last year, be a sophomore this year at the University of Southern California. She's a great freshman basketball player. And she is someone who would be a legitimate rival and competition for Caitlin Clark. I'm not sure she's going to be as good as Caitlin Clark, but man, she can play. Barkley's predicting she's going to take the shine and be the face of the WNBA and the face of women's basketball. Let's play the clip.
That girl, that young lady y'all got at UFC right now, Juju.
Incredible.
Hey, I tell all them bitter, angry girls in the WNBA who are upset about Caitlin Clark, move over more, because Juju is special. Number one, I would give a shout out to Caitlin for what she's did for women basketball the last 3 years, man. It's been incredible. And I wish those women would embrace it. But, Matt, that girl, Juju, she is the real deal.
So I went to their game last year. They played Kansas in the Sweet 16, and I sat with our AD and Lincoln Riley and some of the guys, and it's my first time seeing her in live, and I was like, God, she is special. And Caitlin Clark, and I have a question for you about Caitlin Clark, because I met her a couple of years ago. We did a football game in Iowa. She was great. She was balling then, but it was like, wow, this girl is a star, and clearly she is. I see Juju, and I'm like, she's just different. You know, when you see an athlete, doesn't matter. You're like Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. I don't know if you watched him, the freshman. Oh, yeah. You're just like, that dude should be in the NFL right now. Juju Watkins is like she's going to be bigger than Caitlin Clark. And I don't even know if that's possible for what Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball.
Yeah, Matt, that's what's going to be interesting. Caitlin is a supernova, and Juju probably is a better player.
Mm-hmm.
So those two women going to be running the WNBA for the next 10, 12, 14, 15, 20 years, basically.
So Barkley is on to something. This is the rivalry. It's not Angel Reese. It's not Asia Wilson. It's those two. That's the true rivalry. And again, when I talk about if we were in a properly operating United States of America, there's billionaires out there that would be like, the WNBA can't handle Caitlin Clark, will mishandle Caitlin Clark and Juju Watkins moving forward. Let me money whip these two young ladies and build a legitimate competition to the WNBA and the idiots running the WNBA. It hasn't happened for some reason. For some reason, someone's put some money in Breanna Stewart and Nafisia Collier's pockets, and they're starting up the Unrivaled League, and TNT's jumping behind them. It's stupid. It's controlled opposition. People don't want to watch men play 3-on-3 basketball. Go ask Ice Cube and the Big Three. They damn sure don't want to watch women play 3-on-3 basketball. Someone should be snatching these two up and building a competitive league to the WNBA, and trust me, they would wipe out the WNBA in a year and a half, 2 years tops. But that's not the America we live in anymore because there is no competition. I want to go back to what I said about CNN and Fox News. And many of you already know this, that Fox News isn't legitimate opposition, it's controlled opposition. I know this, and I want to be careful because I want to be respectful of my time at Fox Sports, and I was treated well when I was at Fox Sports, and I like all those people. I met with Rupert Murdoch personally, liked him. Obviously liked Eric Shanks and Charlie Dixon and Whit Album and the people I work with there, and a bunch of people I have a lot of respect for. But my experience at Fox Sports, that second time around in television, hammered home to me the point like, holy cow, these guys are actually business partners with Disney and ESPN. They don't really want to compete against Disney and ESPN. Not really. It was the entire time I was at Fox Sports and ESPN just kept going further and further and further left. I kept asking, like, why aren't we building a true alternative to ESPN? Why aren't we? Sports fans are traditionally conservative. It's men that are primarily sports fans. Why aren't we catering to conservative men over here at Fox Sports? We don't have to jump on board with Colin Kaepernick and all this garbage. Let's go the other direction and give people a true choice between ESPN and Fox Sports. Hey, you're not going to hear all that woke race baiting over here at Fox Sports. Hey, why can't we do allegedly what Fox News is doing, offering a true alternative to CNN and MSNBC? It seemed like the easiest play in the world. You had a black guy who, no gimmick, this is just who I am. I do this rolling out of bed. It's my instincts, it's my nature, it's my true beliefs. Why not just go that direction? And then when I forced them to, with Speak for Yourself, we were looking at the ratings. And it was working. And people were preaching, oh my God, I don't have to turn on the sports TV and hear that Colin Kaepernick is the greatest guy on the planet? There's a place for some reality. But they didn't want to go that direction, not in a real way. And then when I saw them over at Fox News, like, they're cutting bait with Tucker Carlson? They don't really want to be opposition. They're business partners. I'll never forget this during I'm not going to put a name to it, but I'd say a month, 2 months before the 2020 election, no, it had to be further along than that. It had to be 8 months out from the 2020 election, maybe longer. It became crystal clear that Rupert Murdoch was shorting Donald Trump. And that word went out, and I saw people in real time change their position, change their act on television, because, like, hey, Rupert Murdoch and Fox, they're off Donald Trump. And so on election night in 2020, when they called, I believe it was Arizona for Biden 15 minutes after the polls closed, I wasn't shocked. I was like, damn, I'd heard that, Fox News was shorting Donald Trump. And I felt it, and I believe it's not real. They're all in on it together. Fox News is just pretending to represent conservatives. It's controlled opposition. There is no real competition. A long time ago, like when Fox News first started and Roger Ailes was running it, yeah, they wanted to shut down CNN. They wanted to destroy MSNBC. They wanted to be a true rival. Not anymore. Everything's globalism. Everything's we are the world. Everything is a mirage, and they're all in on it together. And this is what is destroying America. We don't have real options. We don't have real competition. Competition is what used to make America great. It used to drive businesses to do better. Hey man, if I don't dot my I's and cross my T's, Taco Bell's gonna snatch the business from McDonald's. McDonald's is gonna snatch the business from Burger King. Now none of them care. They're all getting paid by BlackRock and Vanguard. If you spend money here, they'll get that money there. And I'm looking at it clear as day as it relates to Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, and just how vulnerable the WNBA is, what a big megastar Caitlin Clark is. And for none of these billionaires that are always out there trying to control whatever they can in the media, for none of them to be putting together a serious alternative to the WNBA, which, with this great blessing from Caitlin Clark, the league is hot garbage without her. They don't know what they're doing. They're trying to stuff angry lesbians down our throats and telling us you're gonna love it. And you're gonna love them. And Asia Wilson is the role model your child needs. That's the messaging they're trying to send. Not Caitlin Clark is the messenger or the role model your daughter needs. Asia Wilson is. Asia Wilson, who runs around with that man that they call Dolores, who's one of the angriest, most bitter people on social media. That's the role model for your daughter. It's such a layup to start a league with Caitlin Clark and remove all the politics, buy up Juju Watkins. Those two legitimate rivals, just on the court rivals, could drive would drive the WNBA out of town, out of business in the blink of an eye, and start a basketball league that would be super profitable, super interesting, and a force for good in American culture. But we're not going to get that. Instead, we're going to get this unrivaled 3-on-3 basketball league that they're going to dump a bunch of money into. And just like the WNBA, because if there were real standards in America anymore, if it operated properly, the WNBA would already be out of business. No business gets to lose millions upon millions of dollars 27 straight years in a row. Is there another example of this? That a business loses loses millions of dollars 27 straight years in a row? But because there's no competition and because it results in merit and hard work and smart businesses, they no longer matter. They can funnel the WNBA money from successful businesses or just the money they print up or billionaires backing them that have all made trillions of dollars off this COVID scam that they ran. We've made them impervious to bad decision making. They don't have to do proper business. They don't have to serve the customer. The customer is no longer right. The customer is the bad guy. Turn on any of these networks, they'll tell you, oh, Caitlin Clark's fans, they're the worst people on the planet. And people like me that I'm old and I can't forget. Whatever they do to erase people's memories, I think they got some deal. It was in Men in Black or one of them shows, and I think it's in real life. They can do something to erase your memory. I wish they'd do me. So I just wouldn't remember what it used to be like when there was real competition and there was real merit and there was a standard that we were all held to. And like my father, people would come into the Masterpiece Lounge, a little ghetto bar, but he understood, even if I didn't like the person that came in, I got to treat him right because he's the customer or she's the customer, and the customer's always right. And it doesn't matter what I think as the owner, I have to serve the interests of the customer. We've thrown that out the window. The customer's wrong, and there's a handful of elites that are right, no matter what they do. I'm sorry if, you don't see it. I'm sorry if you can't get it. I don't know, I'm sorry if you don't gamble on the WNBA, so therefore you can't relate to it. I'm sorry if it's not on your daily fantasy plays have nothing to do with the WNBA. So Jason, just talk about, the stuff I'm comfortable with. I'm sorry, I'm going to talk to you about the stuff that's interesting and I think is important and I think has a big, larger lesson in it for you. I'm trying to, and what is going on in the WNBA, trust, has massive implications. It's a political tool, the WNBA. That's why they wear the vote shirts. That's why they walked around. They let the Atlanta Dream Team walk around on court, vote Raphael Warnock shirts. They took a side in politics. They're pro-abortion. Warnock, the guy in Georgia, he's the pro-abortion pastor or pro-choice pastor. He's the pro-murder pastor. And a WNBA team walked around with T-shirts supporting this guy. It's a political tool. It's important. They wouldn't have wasted billions of dollars on the WNBA if it wasn't important. If it wasn't part of an overall messaging tool for the rest of society. They wouldn't have the Wall Street Journal writing bogus stories about, look what the black lesbians built, and they can do it again. They should rule the world. Yes. Kamala Harris for president. Ketanji Brown Jackson for the Supreme Court. Michelle Obama for the presidency. Stacey Abrams. She can't manage her own checkbook, but she's the smartest woman in the planet. There's a messaging deal. And they always carry the message through sports. And they want this league to be this big, shining example. Look what the gays and the black women did. We built it, and they're irate that a little white girl with a Catholic upbringing actually did it. They don't want you to know what the nuclear family produces. Produces the best fruit, the fruit that's best for your kids, the fruit that's best for business and the American way. They don't want you to know the nuclear family, the God-prescribed family, man, woman, and child. Man serving God, woman serving man. They don't want you to know that it produces Caitlin Clark, and it's the strongest force on the planet. And they're all of them are in on it. Hey, we're going to have families, but for the rest of you all, we want you rear-ending each other and doing any and everything that doesn't produce a child. And if it produces a child, we want 2 men or 2 women raising that child to ensure that that child has gender issues, has mental health issues, and hates himself and hates its ancestors and hates this country. That's what they want. Do you understand now, Steve? Steve, send me another email. You say you watch all the show. And if you don't understand now, Steve, don't send me another email. Go watch something. Go watch Stephen A. Smith. Go watch The Band of Idiots and Minstrels. And I'm not upset with you, Steve, because I understand you're a loyal fan. But I just can't explain it any better than that. I can't, and look, I'm trying, and look, we do other things on it because we're going to today. We're going to talk sports. We're going to talk about these games. Interesting college football and NFL games. Me and Steve Kim going to jump into that. But I am going to get off these important points. And right now, what's going on with Caitlin Clark is very, very important. Let me tell you about what's even more important than any of that before we get to Steve Kim. It's our relationship with preborn. You guys know how passionate I am about Dan Steiner's organization, Preborn. It supports our belief, our biblical belief, that life begins at conception. Preborn provides ultrasounds to women who are considering abortion. Providing that ultrasound introduces that mother to the baby in the womb, heartbeat and image, and now that woman is twice as likely to choose life. And that's when Preborn and its organization comes in and says, we got you, baby girl. We're going to get you and the baby through the pregnancy, through the first 2 years of that baby's life outside of the womb. We got all the help you need. We got the counseling. We got baby food. We got diapers. We got you. We're going to help you get through this. Because once you get to this other side, you're going to be so happy with your decision, you'll have it the rest of the way. That will be your life mission, taking care of that baby and developing that baby into a productive member of this society. Preborn is awesome. They've been a primary sponsor of this show now for 2.5, nearly 3 years. I've introduced you all guys to Dan Steiner, the founder. He's been on the show. He supports us at Roll Call. We know where our money goes. It doesn't go to pay for mid-level executives in their second homes. It goes to buying ultrasounds, paying for ultrasounds, and helping mothers through the pregnancy and after the birth of the child outside of the womb. 2 ways to give. Pound 250, say the keyword baby. Pound 250, keyword baby, or give the way I prefer to give. Preborn.com/fearless. Preborn.com/fearless. Steve Kim, Korean Cosell, just around the corner. Next.
when I initially heard Drew Brees' comments. And part of the reason was, obviously, I look at when someone brings up the American flag and disrespect to our country as it pertains to Colin Kaepernick's kneeling as a dog whistle. I think that's you basically saying that you want to ignore the racial injustice. You want to ignore everything that he's already told you that he's been kneeling for. You want to ignore a peaceful protest and the actual reason why it is taking place.
Listen, as someone who is a woman who has 2 scars that go from hip to hip because I've had 2 C-sections in an effort to provide for my family and create a family for my family, I understand sacrifice. A black woman in this country whose mortality rates are incredibly high, I understand making sacrifices and trying to mitigate risk when it comes to your family, expanding your family and protecting your family.
I think this is not just about baseball. That religious exemption BS, which is used in sport and otherwise, also allows for people to be denied health care, jobs, apartments, children, prescriptions, all sorts of rights. And so we have to stop tiptoeing around it because we're trying to protect people who are trying to be bigoted from asking for them to be exempt from it when the very people that they are bigoted against are suffering the consequences.
When you say trying to be bigoted,
welcome back. Before we get to that, and we'll play that intro again a little bit later, we're going to bring in Steve Kim. I want to talk a little bit about LeBron James and some of this Caitlin Clark stuff. I'll call for that intro again a little bit later. That's my fault, guys. I should have prepared you better. That's on me. Steve, welcome to the show. Steve, I want to play you a clip, the first one from Stephen A. Smith. He's talking about Sabrina Ionescu and the game-winning shot that she hit. And he said he thought of Kobe Bryant. I want you to tell me if I'm crazy. Do I have so much Caitlin Clark derangement syndrome that I hear Stephen A. Smith comparing that shot to Kobe, and I hear it as a shot at Caitlin Clark. Like, she hit a logo 3, and you thinking of Kobe Bryant? Right or wrong here, let's play the clip.
When she stepped to her left and she drilled it, butter, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. I'm just thinking about New York capture the championship, the city of New York. It just does something to me. Now, I know you down south somewhere where you're at. I know you can appreciate, AC, what New York is going through. The thought of a championship coming to New York City, it's just something that just, it has my skin standing up. It just tickles me to death. All right, that's number one. Number two. Let me tell you what was on my mind when I saw it. And Sabrina Ionescu is going to appreciate what Stephen A. Smith is about to say to her because it's going to touch her heart. I have to tell you, when I saw her step to that side and drill that 3 and then react the way that she did, like, yeah, this is what I do, I thought about Kobe Bryant, the late, great Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul. Not
this
just
shot right
because
here,
it's something he does. It's because he loved that girl, and she loved him, still loves him. And so because of what he meant to her, what a role model, what an inspiration he was to her, for her to hit that shot in that moment with so much on the line, I have no doubt in my mind, literally in that second, after she made that shot, that brother was on her mind.
Am I deranged, Steve? I hear that as a shot at Caitlin Clark.
Well, first of all, I want to tell the audience that email was not from me. Okay, just let's get that right out of the way. All right. Anyway, good morning to everybody. All right. First of all, there's no way Stephen A. is that excited over that shot. That's a lot of pandering going on. There's no way. Just no way. I noticed it wasn't Monica McNutt, though, he brought on. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't know if that's a shot, because when you think of a clutch shot or a clutch shot maker the last 25 years, who do you think of? You think of Kobe Bean Bryant. You don't think of LeBron James. There's always been that argument, who's the best player? A lot of people think it's LeBron. Who's the guy you'd rather have the ball with 30 seconds to go, down by one or tied? It would be Bean. So I don't know, maybe it's a veiled shot and maybe he didn't even mean it, that he prefers Kobe to LeBron James. That's where I would go with it.
Okay, I know you haven't watched a lot of WNBA. I have. But if I were gonna go the NBA route, I would compare it to Steph Curry or Kevin Durant.
Agreed.
I wouldn't go all the way to Kobe Bryant. But having watched a lot of WNBA, there's no other thought that could cross your mind when she hits a logo three, she's moving a bit to her left. That is Caitlin Clark. That is Caitlin Clark's shot. The whole logo three deal. It's more associated with Caitlin Clark than any other basketball player in the world. When I hear logo three, I think of Caitlin Clark. I don't think of Steph Curry. I don't think of Dame Lillard. I think of Caitlin Clark.
Right.
But the guy called it a logo three. It was a logo three. It was moving to the left a little bit. It's Caitlin Clark. It was a shot at Caitlin.
But Jason, let me just say this. Maybe Stephen A. Smith believes that the highest compliment he could pay a female basketball player is not to compare her to another female. It's to compare her to a male. Maybe even psychologically, he's just saying what we all think aloud. Men are better at women than hoops.
No, maybe. Let me play you another clip. This one definitely is a shot at Caitlin Clark. I feel real comfortable. Maybe you'll disagree. Sabrina Ionescu, after the game, I thought really took a dig at Caitlin Clark, but you got to be really locked into the WNBA conversation to hear it. Play Sabrina.
In the last minute, like you were trying to prove a point. That was just a great all-WNBA second-team performance.
Sabrina was on the all-WNBA second team. Caitlin Clark was first team. Clear shot, in my opinion.
It may have been, or maybe at the voters, but I saw a graphic on Twitter where I get all my WNBA news. Tell me how many people disagree, though, from a statistical and analytical perspective, that Caitlin Clark was not all WNBA first team. Even the people that don't like her for whatever reason, even Team Angel Reese, those simps, they will tell you that when it came to the all WNBA team, they got it right when it came to that position. Do they not, Jason?
Yeah, I think, you'd have to be an idiot. Yes.
Well, then she's an idiot.
There's no question.
Then she's being an idiot then. Okay, it's that simple.
Well, she has certainly joined, to stay in the cool crowd, you got to take little shots at Caitlin Clark. And Sabrina wants to stay in the cool crowd. She shoots commercials with Asia Wilson and all the other black queens of the WNBA. And so she wants to stay in those good graces. She got tired of hearing about how Caitlin Clark should have been on the Olympic team. Your first team all WNBA, but you're not qualified for the Olympic team. One of the 5 best players in the WNBA, but not good enough for the Olympic team. Do the math on that. I can't. Steve, I want to move on to something that irritated me yesterday. Don't know if it irritated you. LeBron James tweeted out yesterday, welcome home, Big Meech. And when I first saw it, I was like, who's Big Butter? Do you know who Big Meech is without doing the homework?
I really don't know who he is.
You don't know who Big Meech is?
I follow it.
Yeah. I didn't follow it either. But then I did research and I was like, there's a drug dealer from, I think, Florida. He started out in Detroit, maybe spent some time down in Florida, that they did a TV show based off of 50 Cent did, Black Mafia family, real life drug dealer Big Meech and his brother. They built a drug empire. He's been released from prison. And LeBron James felt it necessary to, welcome him home with a tweet. I think it's a really bad look. I think it's part of the reason I don't like LeBron James. It's clout chasing. It's pandering to the ghetto black Twitter crowd. It's sending young people in the wrong direction. Let's say LeBron is personal friends with Big Meech. Any of my friends, and I've had some friends that have come home from prison, I didn't find it necessary to tweet it out. I texted or called them. Maybe I even went to their coming home party. But I don't, it's not a priority for me to tweet out, hey, welcome home, big homie. I just think it's a bad look for LeBron James.
I don't disagree, but again, LeBron will do this knowing that he's insulated from criticism. But would he, again, I'm just asking a question, would he ever dare tweet out some of the accomplishments of, let's say, a Ben Carson or a Thomas Sowell? And what would the blowback be? But it goes to that theory that in certain communities, an individual will get home from a prison bid, no matter what the crime, but let's say it's a violent crime, something that was deserved, spend some time in there. They get a party. They get a block party. But then people that come home with a master's degree and is going to be a doctor, I don't know if they get that same reception. This is kind of along the same dynamic that we're talking about here.
LeBron has more empathy for Big Meech than the young white child who was killed on his school property. He finds it necessary. Welcome home, Big Meech. He was silent on the death of, I think it's Ethan Lining, the young teenage white kid that was murdered on his school property. The guys that did it got a slap on the wrist. LeBron had virtually nothing to say about that. This goes even further for people to understand, like, who's actually in control of American society right now? We're hearing all these stories about Venezuelan gangs taking over communities and apartment complexes, and Black Mafia family it's a gang. It's a drug gang. And LeBron is welcoming Big Meech, their leader, home. This is where we're at in society, and I mean this across the political spectrum. It's the influence of gangs and criminals. And look, it's always been a part of American politics. They say the mafia helped Kennedy win the '62 election. Or is it 62 or it's 1960 election? I'm sorry. And so, that will be the defense of, like, hey, look, the mafia is respected and everybody loves the Godfather and all that. But it does seem to have gone to a whole nother level. And that's what I find disappointing. I'm not going to ask you to comment on that, Steve. I just wanted to make that point. I want to play you a clip from Charles Barkley. Talking about LeBron and Bronny, and it's like, man, they got Charles Barkley on board with this LeBron and Bronny stuff. Kind of disappoints me, but it's where we're at. Let's hear from Charles Barkley on Bron and Bronny.
Because of his last name, there's gonna be a certain amount of petty jealousness of people who are like, you don't deserve to be in the NBA. You're not as good as some of these other players. You only got in because of your dad. So everything LeBron did for the NBA, I've always said this, I don't get into the silliness of the GOAT debate. Michael Jordan, in my opinion, is the greatest basketball player ever. I actually got Kobe ranked ahead of LeBron, if you want me to be honest with you, and I love LeBron. I think LeBron's done everything great. I've said this about him before. I think it's probably one of the greatest stories ever in sports, if not the greatest. We've never had a kid, because people forget this, Kobe Bryant struggled in the NBA early. So did Kevin Garnett, Tracy McGrady, everybody. The only player I ever seen who came out of high school who was ready is LeBron. The only one. And for him to go, never really get in trouble, never done anything wrong, lived up to the hype, is one of the greatest sports stories of all time. I've said that many times. For that kid to never get in trouble and be as great as he's been, he's one of the top 5 basketball players ever, in my opinion. It's one of the greatest stories ever. And I'm really looking forward to, they got to handle this thing with kid gloves, literally, because they can't just put him out there.
Right.
Because he's not a finished product yet. But man, it's a great story. I think we saw the Griffiths play together in baseball, but I can't think of anybody else where a father and son played a pro sport together.
Steve, Barkley going with the great story justification for Bron and Bronny. You buying it?
I mean, it's a great story. A lot of YouTube channels are getting daily content out of it. And I want to relate this. There's a guy by the name of Uncut Hoops out there that does outstanding work, who's been detailing this a lot. And he put up a stat line recently. And again, it's just preseason. Bronny had 0 for 4 shooting, no points, no rebounds, no assists. It's a historic performance, Jason. It's a quadruple 0. Think about it. We may never see a quadruple 0 ever again. And he actually played a few minutes. And his plus minus was, I think, like minus 12. Here's the issue where I think Charles was being a little bit dishonest. Here's why the criticism and the commentary is not petty. He's not any good. If Bronny was a serviceable rookie-level player, my belief is, given the kid gloves treatment, speaking of that LeBron James has been given by certain segments of the media, they would be trumpeting this. If he was a solid player in the NBA that actually deserved the roster spot and earned rotational minutes, you know what he's earned thus far? And they're admitting it. A trip down to the G League at a guaranteed salary. I don't know how many players are earning that salary, which is almost unprecedented, right, for a second-round draft choice, and then get sent down to the G League, or will be. So I just look at this, and by the way, Charles, I'm still a fan of Barkley. He's coming out of context here. Kobe did not struggle out of high school. He just got stuck behind an all-star 2-guard in Eddie Jones, and there was no room. There were not enough minutes. Now, Del Harris put him in a very tough position, jacking up those airball threes in Game 6 of that Western semifinals in '97. He never should have been given the ball. That ball needed to go to Nick Van Exel that game. I remember that game well. But even by his second year, when Kobe got minutes, there was an understanding that as good as Eddie Jones is, and he was an all-star level player, he did not have the ceiling of Kobe Bean Bryant. And by 2000, when Kobe Bean Bryant was allowed to play and spread his wings, he did unbelievable things. So again, let's not in any way compare Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, and other guys to Bronny James. It's an insult, and it's just simply a lie.
Let me update your stats. Last night, Lakers played. Bronny had a plus 17 plus minus. He went 2 of 4 from the field, and I believe he had 2 rebounds last night. And they had a comeback victory. The Dallas Connect kid, their real draft pick, scored 20 straight points late in the game and actually led him that way. I think Connect maybe had 35. But you're right in terms of, look, Charles, and this is again where I just say, like, this is where the media has changed. 20 years ago, Barkley would have said, hey, man, Bronny James doesn't belong in the league. This version of Charles, where we got to play nice and we're all in on this together, he has to say, it's a great story. And that's his justification. It's a great story. So now whatever's a great story is, and so that's eventually how you're going to get to, hey, let's bring Asia Wilson to the NBA. It's a great story. No, she can't play in the NBA, but let's put on, it's a great story. Let's make so-and-so, Becky Hammond, let's make her the head coach of the Lakers. It's a great story. This is my problem with sports. It used to be, this is a great competition. Now it's just another TV show, and we're just writing in scripts.
I don't think that's why I think he's mislabeling, and it's not a great story. There's a reason that this really hasn't happened before, or in a large sense, is because other fathers wouldn't do this with their sons, and leagues wouldn't allow it, and teams wouldn't allow it. This is something that you've mentioned. This is a little bit of a microcosm of what's going on in sports. It's not a story. The other thing about Charles congratulating LeBron on not getting in trouble, like he's never been in trouble, when did that become sort of an accomplishment? You know what I mean? Isn't that kind of what we're supposed to not do?
Take care of my kids.
I got a job.
The Chris Rock.
I stay out of jail.
I take care of my kids. Yeah. Listen, I've heard this argument as it relates to LeBron James from a lot of athletes. A lot of athletes believe that. And they believe it because they know what they're really saying is, man, if I was in that position, or man, I know how much he's gotten away with and he's never been busted. Blah. They know what goes on in that lifestyle, and they're sitting there amazed. And to me, and I'm not trying to take an unfair swipe at LeBron James, but the reason why is there's so much investment in LeBron that anything that may have gotten him into trouble has been covered up, and so that, hey, he hadn't gotten into trouble, that's a feather in his cap. That's a really low bar, but it's a low bar we've set for ourselves. Steve, I'll give you one. You can go ahead and repeat your talking point one more time.
Well, no, Jason, here's the issue, though. And DeMarcus Cousins, I have to give him a lot of credit. He came on a recent podcast, and he said the Lakers, even going through this whole charade, they are an unserious franchise. And that,
Steve, I think we got some connection issues.
Many people
let's reconnect,
like
Steve. Let's reconnect. We'll reconnect with Steve. But that's interesting that DeMarcus Cousins. Some people think that LeBron James' whole reputation is riding on what's Diddy gonna say or not say. And I think a lot of athletes and entertainers will be sitting around holding their breath, wondering what Diddy's going to be allowed to say, what is he going to say, and there's a reason why. LeBron James has been on, ain't no party like a Diddy party. Diddy gets in trouble. Will there be a welcome home Diddy tweet from LeBron? No different than Big Meech. And again, it's like when you're making it a point to celebrate a Big Meech, quiet on Diddy, even though you acknowledge you like going to Diddy parties. So I just, and this would be true of any man. If someone somewhere said, hey man, I give Whitlock credit, he never got in trouble. Don't give me any credit. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble. But, the big man upstairs looking out for me. And I'm sure that's true of LeBron James. I'm sure it's true of Butters. I'm sure it's true of Steve Kim. It's true of every man. If they, I can sit here, and I'm not, in no way am I saying this bragging. I'm saying it to young kids out there. Don't be foolish, because you'll get my age, and I can wake up out of a sleep, and it's a nightmare. I can remember freshman or sophomore year at Ball State. I'm driving so drunk that my friends are in the car. Okay, turn left, a little bit harder, because that's how drunk I was. Driving. Had to be my sophomore year. I was driving my Brown Fury car. Had a great radio system, the rest of it was trash. But I was that drunk, and I can wake up like, do you understand how different my life would have been if I had gotten in a car accident, drunk, hurt someone? We'd be like, Whitlock, welcome to the show. You're an ex-con. You just got to, welcome home, Big Whit, would be getting tweeted out. And I've told the story on this show. This isn't me so much, but me and my buddy hopping out of the car. Someone called us the N-word. We're kids. And at Ball State, we hop out of the car. I think we're hopping out for a fight. I look over, my buddy's holding a Uzi. And I'm like, holy cow, this escalated quickly. But let's say he got a shot off or two, and now all of a sudden someone's doing welcome home Big. So when I hear never getting in trouble, man, I could go story after story after story with just like, you ever, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, Butter, but you spend 8 months doing the math. Some girl tells you she's pregnant, and you start doing the math every single day. We had sex on this day. There's no way, blah, blah. And you call your mother crying, laying in the middle of the floor because you think you done got the wrong girl pregnant. Yeah. Anyway, Steve, welcome back. Finish your point if you remember where you were.
Yeah, and again, look at where the Laker organization is right now. They have that circus act. We have a podcaster as our head coach, and JJ Redick, who, by the way, his act is already worn thin. I'm being dead serious. Right now, I'm just telling him, I'm going to use this analogy again. The great Dr. Jerry Buss, he must feel like Logan Roy rolling over in his grave. This has not been a good succession. They're all Fredo. There's no Sonny Corleone's there. The other thing that's interesting, Jason, let's tell the whole story. Is it a notable achievement and something that should be covered about LeBron and his son playing? Yes, there's no argument. Okay. Should it be covered that LeBron, quote unquote, started a school? Okay, we can look at the details, but let's tell the whole story. None of those kids at that school can read or write at the proficient level for their grade. So let's tell the whole story here of what is going on. Bronny made it. He's an NBA player. Okay, can he play at the correct proficiency level for the association? Let's tell the whole story.
Steve, I got a couple of quick hit comments I want from you before we talk about some weekend football games and give a few prize picks. I want to play you a clip of Mel Kiper talking about why Shadeur Sanders isn't the number one pick overall in the 2025 NFL draft, and I want your thoughts. Here's Kiper.
Mel, right now, Jordan Reed, who's your peer NFL draft analyst here at ESPN, came out with an article on .com a few hours ago, and he's got Shadeur Sanders as the number one pick going to the Cleveland Browns. Would you agree with that type of decision? Would you agree with that type of evaluation on Shadeur?
Yeah, I don't know where Jordan has him rated. I have Shadeur as at the 13th spot on the big board, and the quarterbacks follow with Milroe at 14, Ward at 15. So that would be an overdrafting. I don't know if Jordan would agree with that or not. That would be great to hear that. I don't think Jordan has Shadeur that high. What he's saying is positional value, needing the quarterback. These guys are going to get forced up, as they always do. And that's what I was having a conversation with a friend of mine in the league this past week, and we were talking about rating players. And I said, what I have to try to do, and everybody, the challenge of all of us, the evaluators, is to not look at the quarterback differently than everybody else. When you look at a linebacker, corner, receiver, you just grade them. You don't worry about the position. I have to move him up. Well, quarterback, it seems like, well, they're going to go, so I have to move him up because I know they're going to go, so I have to put him in that range or I'll look like an idiot come draft day or whatever. You can't do that. You rank them as a quarterback, like a receiver, and you put them up there, and and that protects you from overdrafting. And that's what I've tried to do. And I think you always fall into that trap of moving them up because that's where they're going to go. We know they're going to go top 10. Let's get them up into that range. You can't have that attitude. So I think with Shadeur, he's at 13, Milroe's at 14, Ward's at 15. Unless something dramatic happens between now and the end of the regular season, or they get into playoffs with Milroe and you see what happens, or Cam Ward with Miami. Obviously, Shadeur's not going to be in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens then. But right now, I don't see them being worthy of being a top 10, let alone a top 5 or number 1 pick overall.
Your thoughts, Steve? I find that fascinating, not surprising from Mel.
I think Mel kind of nailed it, that you rank the quarterbacks like anybody. I remember a couple of years ago, when I don't think there was really a consensus first-round draft choice, then all of a sudden the Steelers needed a quarterback, and in the late first round, they seemed to reach for Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's no longer with the Steelers. I don't even think he made it through his rookie deal. And I get the sense, and he listed a couple of quarterbacks there that we're all very familiar with, they might go in the first round, but is it one of those years, Jason, where you kind of know there's an Andrew Luck, a John Elway, a Peyton Manning, where you say that guy is worthy of a top 2 or 3 draft choice, and that's my quarterback for the next decade and a half? I don't think so. I think all of these guys come with a significant question mark. And as it relates to Shadeur, number one, I think he holds the ball way too long. And unlike, let's say, a Caleb Williams, I don't know if he has that type of athleticism to extend plays. Shadeur's okay in terms of athleticism, but he's not a Lamar Jackson type. He's got good arm talent, got a little bit of pop there, but there's some other issues that, again, that are ancillary in terms of how will he get along with grown men now with the way he behaves sometimes. So I pretty much share, I'm in lockstep here with Mr. Kiper.
I'm going to play a card that tiny bit inappropriate, but that's what we do here. I'm fearless. When I heard Mel talking about Jordan Reed, I didn't know he's their other draft analyst, and I was like, I remembered that, they got rid of Todd McShay, and they've replaced him with Jordan Reed. And I was like, Jordan Reed has Shadeur as the number 1 overall pick, and I was like, I wonder what color Jordan Reed is. I'm just saying, that's where my head goes.
You went there.
Who would over-evaluate or elevate Shadeur Sanders? And I'm unaware. I have not seen Jordan Reed on ESPN because I don't watch a lot of ESPN. I watch games. I don't watch the daytime TV. Lo and behold, Jordan Reed's a brother, and it just crossed my mind, like, is he doing Dion a favor here by inflating Shadeur's value? And and I'm sorry we had to do that, but ESPN has leaned so hard into this DEI stuff that it just crosses my mind. Am I getting a quality opinion here, or am I getting the diversity take? And I think I got the diversity take.
Yeah, I mean, let's just put it this way. I remember a couple of years ago when Anthony Richardson out of Florida, no one would tell the truth. He's an inexperienced quarterback who threw for, I think, under 50% or close to it. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I know he looks good in shorts and T-shirts and he can run a 4.2. I know he can jump over tall buildings and probably do a 360 dunk. There's one issue with him, Jason. He can't play quarterback. And he's always injured now. And I'm thinking to myself, but I think that a lot of people were afraid to say this because, again, they wouldn't stay on code.
Speaking of violating the code, I think in a good way, I think Justin Fields has handled what appears to be going down in Pittsburgh better than a lot of people would. He was asked about, potentially getting replaced by Russell Wilson. Here's his response.
I mean, I don't think I played, good enough, if I'm being real with you. If I'm being real with myself, I think I did play well enough. I don't think there would be any sort of we got a few wins. Of course, I'm glad about that, but there's areas that I can be better at, and I'm just gonna continue to work on those and continue to get better.
Shocked, Steve, at how well he handled that?
I'm not shocked, but I have to give him credit. That's a lot of self-awareness. I think he's being very honest about it. Let's face it, his play, look, he has not been Ben Roethlisberger. He has not been the sole reason. But I also think there's a realization. Russell Wilson may be a spent bullet. Okay, so let's not panic. This is a long National Football League season. If he falters and he's completely lost his fastball, they could go right back to the bullpen for Justin Fields. So I like this attitude he's displaying.
Butter, if Russell Wilson plays this weekend and plays poorly, there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes of a week-long butter box penalty because you're the one person on the planet who expects Russell Wilson to lead the Steelers to the Super Bowl this year. Are you standing behind that opinion?
I am, and actually, if you want to go back and review the tape, I didn't say that he was going to lead the Steelers to the Super Bowl. I said that this year with Justin Fields was going to get dismantled because of the love for Justin Fields that we've already seen this year. Now, Russell was injured, but I do stand by it. So, yes, I do. Get the butter box ready, but it ain't going to be for me.
What are you expecting this weekend from your man, Russell Wilson?
I think there's going to be some continuity, some timing things. I think he's going to play well. if he's healthy. We saw it with Baker Mayfield. When a QB's not healthy at that size, it's a little bit different kind of game that they're going to play. I think he's going to come out and be a veteran. He's ready for this. I think he's going to I think they're going to win the game, and I think he's going to play well. He'll have his moments where he's.
I walked him into a trap. He made a prediction. He's boxed himself in. We may have a Butterbox week next week. All right, let's get to our prize picks.
Mama Whitlock, what's your lineup? Mama Whitlock, what's your lineup? Pick more, pick less. Run your game, you gotta be fearless. Lock it in. Mama Whitlock, what's your lineup? Prize picks.
All right, thanks to our friends at Prize Picks and my mother's affinity for gambling. Steve, we're going to unpack about 6 football games from this weekend, 3 in college football, 3 in the National Football League, and we're going to conclude our picks of the games with a prize pick. We're going to pick more or less on one player from each one of those games. We'll start with the biggest game, probably in football. This is the biggest game, college or pro.
Yeah, Miami, Louisville. Oh,
Texas.
okay, that one. Oh, that one.
Georgia, Texas, not the referee bowl in Miami. Georgia, Texas. Your thoughts?
Hook 'em horns. Hook 'em horns. I think they're the much better team. And look, if you took away the logo off the Georgia helmet, you took that black G off, and you had just a basic white uniform, you would not think that this is the Georgia of old. I think a lot of people are falling in love with the logo and the recent tradition. This game is at Darrell K. Royal Stadium. It's deep in the heart of Texas and Austin. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Steve Sarkisian is as good as any play caller in college football. The mighty Quinn Ewers has gotten to knock off the rust last week. Give me the Longhorns by 10 at home.
I think I like Georgia in this game. Texas is about to get its welcome to the SEC. It'll be an upset. I'm not saying that Georgia's the better team. I just think Georgia will come in with a chip on their shoulder, a chance to. This would be a full recovery from the Alabama loss. I think Georgia's going to pull the upset. But let's go pick more, pick less here with prize picks. Q and Ewers. My mother says less than 259 passing yards, less than 258.5 passing yards. You say what?
I'm going to say over. I'm just telling you, Steve Sarkisian knows how to dial them up. They will take deep shots, I think, fairly liberally in this game. One concern I have is Isaiah Bond, their big play receiver outside. He's a little bit banged up. There's an ankle injury. If he plays, though, I'm very confident of the over.
I'm going to stick with my mother here and go less and say that we're going to see there will be an Arch Manning sighting in this game. How about that? Okay. I'm going to go with less. I'm going to agree with my mother here. Let's move on to game number 2, another big game, particularly a lot of playoff implications here. Both these teams trying to avoid their second loss of the season. Tennessee at Alabama. What do you think?
I'm going to go against the grain here. Tennessee's at home. I know their offense has been slumping. The $8 million NIL man, Nico Iamaleava, has not played well for about the past month. But Tennessee's defense, I believe, is elite. They've still played well. There's going to come a point in time when that Josh Heupel offense is going to get going again. Give me the Vols.
I'm gonna use my emergency phone line, or what do they call it, lifeline?
Lifeline.
I'm gonna use a lifeline. David Reed, please text me now. What's your thoughts here on Tennessee, Alabama? I know David's gonna be. There's no way Tennessee wins this game, but we'll see what David Reed. I'm calling. David Reed, Bama by 24. I think I agree.
Okay.
Look, man,
all right.
Tennessee's used to a lot of punishment.
Butterbox with that
leaking oil, man. They're leaking oil.
Oh, I like Bama.
Well, they're leaking oil.
Tennessee is always leaking oil.
No, Bama's leaking oil right now, folks.
I'm with butter.
And then, all right, let's go to the prize picks. Mama Whitlock has Jalen Milroe having a big game, huge game, more than 283 passing and rushing yards combined. I agree with my mother here. I see Jalen throwing for about 230 yards and rushing for another 60. I love my mother's call here. Jalen Milroe, more than 283 and a half passing and rushing yards combined. You say what, Steve?
Absolutely agree with that one, because the reality is very simple. Jalen Milroe is not only their best quarterback, he's also been their best running back. So, yes, that's the over.
That's the more than. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go to Colorado, Arizona.
Colorado, that's
at
one of the
Arizona.
big three games.
This is the
Not
game
Louisville,
of the
Miami.
week.
We're going to this. Okay. Oh, God. Okay.
Yes. This is huge. This has major Big 12 ramifications. The loser of this game is out of the Big 12 playoff race, or I don't know. Anyway, it could be the third loss for Prime, and I could be celebrating around 6, 7 o'clock Central Time on Saturday. Steve, you say what?
This game is in Tucson, if I'm not mistaken, and Arizona is it's really a shame that Jed Fish swam upstream to Seattle, because if he would have stayed and they would have brought back more of that team, because some of them went to Washington with them. I really thought they were going to be a playoff team based on the way they finished last year. But they still have a quarterback that I like, even though he hasn't been as good, Noel Fafita, and T-Mac outside. Now, T-Mac against Travis Hunter, I hope they're matched up a lot. You know what, Jason? Here's the thing, though. Arizona's been so bad, and Colorado's actually been slightly improved. I'm going to take the Buffaloes here on the road, believe it or not.
I love that pick, and I'm not trolling anybody. I'm not covering my rear end. I think Colorado's going to win. I really do. I think they're going to win at Arizona. I think Shadeur will have a good game. I think their offense will have a good game, and Colorado will avoid its third loss for at least another week. But let's go to our prize picks. Travis Hunter, after missing half of last week's game, should be rested. Got a bit of a dinged up shoulder. My mother, a huge Buffs fan, has Travis Hunter with more than 100 receiving yards. I disagree. I think Travis has less than 100 receiving yards, finishes around 80. You say what?
I'm with you, Jason. I get the sense, and they haven't announced it, they're going to do a little bit more of a pitch count given Travis Hunter's physical condition. And again, I believe his biggest assignment this week will be at defensive back against Tetero McMillan. That's a prime time matchup, so I think more of his energy will be expended on the defensive side of the ball.
Both in agreement there. My mother, she's a bit of a Deion homer. She loves Deion, loves Travis Hunter. Not surprised she would go there. Let's move to the National Football League. 3 really interesting games. Lions, Vikings. Lions, their first game without Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go well. I like the Lions in this game, and I think I like them comfortably. You say what?
You know, look, eventually over time, that loss of Hutch is going to hurt them. But I get the sense the Lions are really coming on strong offensively with Ben Johnson. They do all that running game right up the middle. They simplify defenses, what they can do. Give me the Lions. I think the Lions are still going to be a double-digit win team, and I'm a big believer in Dan Campbell. Give me Detroit.
Again, I like the Vikings here. They remain undefeated. I think the Lions are going to struggle to put pressure on Sam Darnold. They're not going to create those third and long situations. Jared Goff throw a couple of interceptions or turn the ball over at least once. Let's move to the prize pick. My mother likes Jahmyr Gibbs with more than 50.5 rushing yards. I disagree. I'm going to go less than 50.5 rushing yards. He'll finish with around 45. You say what, Steve?
I will agree with your mother here. And again, some of his carries will go to David Montgomery. That's a dynamic 1-2 punch they have up there. But look, since that week 2 loss to the Buccaneers, Ben Johnson has dialed up the run game. They've actually scaled back the run-pass ratio. And so that means basically guys like Gibbs and Montgomery have to be the foundation of that offense. I'm going to take a hunch here and say that Gibbs breaks off a big one. I will go more than.
Okay. Another huge game, probably the game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Chiefs, 49ers. 49ers are favored in this one. I think the 49ers need this far more than the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'm going to pick my Kansas City Chiefs to win an ugly game here. They always seem to figure out a way to beat the 49ers. I think they do it here again. I like the Chiefs over the 49ers. You say what?
I'll take the Niners. Look, the record is what your record is, right? I just don't see a dominant team, at least on one side of the ball. The offense is really dink and dunk now. The Chiefs have kind of become this defensive team that happens to have this iconic quarterback. And like you said, a lot of this has to do with the sense of urgency. Give me the Niners to win this game.
Butter, sounds like you want to chime in here.
Yeah, I do, because I feel like the Chiefs are like the Warriors or like the Bulls. They know it's a long season. The regular season, playoffs don't matter. It's about championships. I don't think that the Chiefs are that hyped up for this game as much as, like you mentioned, I think the 49ers need this game. I've got the 49ers. This is my preview of the Super Bowl. I think it was a disgrace that this wasn't the top game that you were talking about the whole time. But the 49ers are going to win this game, but not the Super Bowl.
Let's move to the prize picks. My mother's dead wrong here. I don't see it. Travis Kelce, more than 62.5 receiving yards. My mother's a big time. She used to live in Kansas City for a number of years, even before I did. She's a Chiefs homer. I see Travis Kelce less than 62.5 receiving yards. Steve, you say what?
Kelce seems to be a Hall of Fame player in decline, or at least the descent of his peak athleticism, which is not a surprise. I'm going to go less than. I just don't see the same explosiveness I did from number 87, let's say about 2-3 years ago.
All right. I think Lions, Vikings, Chiefs, 49ers are the best game. The most fascinating NFL game will end on this note. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and the Jets take on the new-look Pittsburgh Steelers, probably with Russell Wilson at quarterback on Sunday Night Football. Jets, Steelers, Steve. You say what?
Now, wait a minute. Is that game in Pittsburgh?
I believe, but let me double check.
Yeah, because you've got a terrible – it may not even matter. Jason.
It's in Pittsburgh.
Give me the Steelers. You got a terrible offensive line with the Jets against the defense of the Steelers and T.J. Watt in that group, which is very salty. Russell Wilson just has to manage the game. Don't give it away. Give me Steel City.
It's crazy. The public seems to love the Jets. They're on the road.
Really?
They're giving up 2 points. Jets on the road, and they're still favored by 2. I'm with you. I think T.J. Watt maybe dings up Aaron Rodgers and knocks him out of the game. I mean, holy cow. Pittsburgh loves to get after the quarterback. Sunday Night Football, a chance to showcase their defense. Russell Wilson out there, new start, new beginning. Mike Tomlin's going to be fired up. Yeah, I think I like the Steelers in this game, and that may be my strongest feeling for the weekend. Let's move to the prize picks. The prize pick, Aaron Rodgers, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Steve, you say what?
I'm going to say no. No, I just don't see a cohesive pass game right now. And again, I think with Devontae, I know it's like riding a bike, those two, right? I think it's going to take another week or two, but that inability to protect Aaron Rodgers properly, I think it's going to be a very, very big factor. So I will go less than on this one.
My mother's got Aaron Rodgers more than I think she's halfway attracted to Aaron Rodgers, and that's probably why she's
He's a handsome
doing
fella.
that. Don't
Don't blame her.
Yeah, these bearded men she's kind of halfway attracted to. She probably doesn't like Aaron Rodgers, though, because Aaron Rodgers refused to take the vaccine. My mother's taken the vax and 5 other booster shots, I think. And I can remember when she called and told me, she goes, "That's it. I'm not taking any more boosters." I was like, "Oh, really? After 5, you finally decide?"
Yeah. Everyone has their limit, Jason. Everyone has their limit. That's it. The last.
I'm going to go with you.
That's what I'm taking. No more. That's it.
Yeah,
Just 5. That's it.
I'm going to go less than as well. I see 1 touchdown pass and then perhaps him limping around scared of TJ Watt the rest of the game. Anyway, that's our prize picks. That's our picks for the NFL weekend. Thank you, Steve. Great job as always. Enjoy the weekend. I'm sure you and JB are cooking up something great out at JB's house. When we come back, Shemeka Michelle is going to join us. She'll tell us what's been popping in the chat. And we're also going to talk a little bit about, with Shemeka, Candace Owens has doxed the hell out of Kamala Harris and it's trending all over Twitter. That Kamala, whatever her name is, has been lying about her heritage and lying about her grandparents. It's been pretty fascinating. Hats off to Candace Owens. We'll talk about it with Shemeka Michelle. X. People that aren't in line with God's way speaking and talking to this team. And I wonder, has any of that struck you as you've watched Deion Sanders transition into being a Power 5, Power 4 head coach and just his leadership style? He talks a lot about Christianity, but a lot of his actions and things he's bringing to the team don't seem to be in alignment with that.
Well, and I think so your team's always watching and people are always watching. And to me, the best way that I'm ever going to lead people to the faith that I believe. Like the best way I'm going to do that is the way I live my life, Jason, right? Like that is the best example. That is the best preaching that I could ever do is the way I live consistently. So I think that I don't know how he is all the time. I don't know how he is behind the camera in team meetings. I've seen Deion up close at practice before, and I like the way that they're disciplined, and he'll hold them to some discipline. And I like that he's a little bit old school and wants to push them. But I do know this: if it's not real, kids will sense it. And if you're telling me something and you're not living it, kids will sense it. So I love when I hear coaches that are bold about their faith because I have a strong faith, and I'm encouraged when I see that. I do think that as Christians, we can also talk about our faith, Jason. And sometimes if we talk about our faith and we don't live it out, then a lot of times we're turning people away from our faith.
Shemeka, welcome back to the show. We'll get to the comments here in a bit, but I wanted, oh, wow.
Oh.
Holy cow.
Okay.
Look at Shemeka. Man, oh, man. That color does you well, Shemeka.
Ooh. Thank you.
You headed, so you got a big date after the show? Where you headed?
It's just Friday. What did Aaliyah say? It's Friday and I'm ready to hang. Pick up my girls and hit the party scene tonight. Oh, it's all right. So it's Friday.
That'll be the last of that. No more of that. You already look awesome, and I love a woman that can sing. You're going to get me into trouble. No more of that. No more of that. Anyway, Shemeka, Candace Owens, thinking of someone that, man, just looks better and better every time I watch her show. She's brought her A game. But she's also, in terms of content, brought her A game as well. She's been crushing it, exposing Kamala Harris with this fake background. Can you walk us through that? I find this fascinating. I find it, all of these people from Obama to Stephen A. Smith to whoever the president of France is, all these people got these mysterious backgrounds, and she's kind of connected the dots and is getting some attention right now because Kamala seems to be lying about her black grandmama, and all you had to do was be a black woman to figure it out. But anyway, fill us in.
Yes, Jason, this has been so delicious to watch. It's been so good. It's like eating beef ribs. And it's just been very tasty. So she started out a few weeks ago and she just started kind of putting it out there that she didn't believe Kamala was black. It started because of how they came at Janet Jackson. So this was Candace saying, I'm going to get you back for coming at Janet Jackson the way that they did because of what she said. So it's been a little deep dive and she's been taking us through it. Then she went on vacation, then came back and bam, like we've seen her talk to someone that kind of knew the family, but not really. But then yesterday, this was a woman who actually knew the grandmother that Candace kept saying, I don't think this is her. I don't believe this is her. She just started uncovering a lot of facts just from people emailing her and messaging her and telling her where to look. And this Jamaican lady on yesterday knew so much about the grandmother. I mean, she began to tell details that Candace had never revealed to the audience. So this had to be someone that was in the know. Speaking of her kids, which was Donald Harris, Kamala's father's brother. And so she began to just talk about this woman very affectionately. But when they asked her and showed the picture of the lady that that Kamala had in her book, she said, that's not her. Like, that woman is not her. So Candace believes that the woman Kamala has in her book was actually a housekeeper or someone that actually served her real grandmother, because her real grandmother was rich. She had businesses, and apparently her ancestors owned slaves. So this is just blown out the water. But of course, we know mainstream media probably won't pick it up, but it was trending all day yesterday.
And some today over X. I want to play, let's start with SOT number 9. This is Kamala Harris's family friend on Harris's grandmother and photo, saying that the photos are fake. Let's start with SOT number 9.
Mm-hmm. And Miss Beryl, by the way, I see Vice President Harris on the box, and I sit up straight and I think, my God, she looks so much like Miss Beryl. Her facial features, the only thing is Miss Beryl was much smaller in stature, but
well, okay, if Miss Beryl, because Kamala is very fair-skinned.
Right.
Was Beryl fair-skinned?
Yes, she was.
She was?
She was. She was fair-skinned.
She was? Okay.
Yes, she was very fair-skinned.
Oh.
With black hair.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So she was so fair-skinned that now that I'm older and I can spot people by their skin coloring, etc., for me, I would say there was something Irish there.
How interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say somewhere along the line, she would have had ancestors that were Irish. Yes.
Actually, can I show you a photograph?
Of course.
Of an old lady.
Yes.
And some people speculate that this is Miss Beryl.
Right.
So, sorry, bear
That's
with me.
okay.
I am so untechnological.
Okay.
It's just pathetic.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Nah, that's not Miss Beryl.
That's not Miss Beryl.
That's definitely not Miss Beryl.
Okay.
That's not Miss Beryl.
So,
and
that means you have to just show it.
Yeah.
So,
that is not Miss Beryl.
That's not Miss Beryl.
Definitely not Miss Beryl.
Okay.
And I know what she looks like. I couldn't have been in a dream, and she definitely did not look like that.
There's another person, but could that be Miss Beryl?
No, that's not
That's
Miss
not
Beryl.
Miss Beryl
That's
either.
not Miss Beryl either.
Okay.
Don't know who that is.
Okay.
Miss Beryl in Kamala's book is this dark-skinned, older black woman, obviously, much darker than Kamala Harris, probably around Shemeka's skin tone, and allegedly, this woman is saying no. Miss Beryl was a white woman of Irish descent. I want to play this other clip, and this is where Candace Owens, for a long time, has been criticized. She ain't black. She don't talk like us. When we say God is good, she didn't say all the time, blah, blah, all this stuff to discredit her. But I'll give her credit on this as it relates to Miss Beryl. Sounds like all the black women I know. Let's play the clip. Clip number 7.
All right, so all of this was really just common sense. I know it's not that common anymore, but it really was common sense from the beginning. And I want people to know, let the record show, let the history books show that all I did was conduct basic black people science. I looked at this photo here, the photo that Kamala put in her book of her and Grandma Beryl, and I said, no. Scientific consensus rejects this theory for a ton of reasons, one of them being, I just didn't feel like this woman was her grandma. I have a Caribbean grandma. They're all up in your face. I don't feel the affection in this photo. I'm not thinking this is a very dark woman. I'm not thinking this is the mother of Donald Harris at all. Like, I know genetics can be funky, but I was going, this woman does not look like she owned and operated a store. There were so many things that were throwing me off. Even the whole story of the grandparents owning all of these stores. I'm going, what are you talking about? 1914 to 1938 in Jamaica, but we were just getting out of slave chains. And you're telling me like your family just became like so dominant and we're running these dry goods stores and this grandma had that. Something was off, okay? And what was off was just the photos they were presenting. These people were too black. And then once we started looking into it, the fact that her campaign just shut off the tap on speaking about her blackness. They just wanted to move on as if she had never said it. It was the entire brand. Remember, that's the pitch. She's going to be the first black female president of the United States. The media was trying to sell that, to force feed that to us. And I said, Black scientific theory says, no, this ain't your grandma.
That may be Candace's blackest moment, and I hate to even talk like that and say that, but she sounded like every black woman I know from my family, and long before Jerry Springer was doing DNA, black grandmamas was calling babies, no, that ain't your baby, don't even worry about it, that's not your baby. That's been going on for a year, or, boy, that's your baby, cut it out.
Right.
Don't tell that lie. Look at that, and they drop the N-word, look at that. Look at his nose. That's your baby. Shut up.
Yeah.
That's how Candace sounded to me, and she's, yeah.
Yeah, and she's right. If you were posing with your grandmother, and of course, my grandma is not Caribbean, but there would be some affection that could be seen through the picture. This woman is standing there looking like, I don't know why I'm here. Why does she want to take a picture with me? Like, there's no affection at all. So the things that Candace went through the book and pointed out, they're so spot on. I never got the book, but when Candace went through and said, look at this, there were pictures where Kamala said, sporting my afro. And like, she just really went out of her way to say, I'm black. And Candace is right. Her campaign really backed away from that. And she started to act as if it was too beneath her to mention it. I'm not going to entertain that. I know who I am. Well, apparently you do. You know that you are an Irish woman, and you've been cosplaying black, and I think that needs to be in the mainstream.
It's funny. All of these people, these plants, these installed people, they write these books full of fantasy information, and if you just take the time to read the book, you can see all the lies. They become obvious. I'm, not shocked that Candace Owens figured this out. Not shocked that Kamala Harris has a fake history, made up history. At some point, we have to start and again, I know I did a very inappropriate, politically incorrect show called Mixed Nuts. I'm just sorry, it's just factual. They're picking out these mixed heritage people on purpose. And they got some confusion. Many of them are vulnerable. I'm not saying all of them, but there is a pattern here. Remember Sean King, the white dude, that telling everybody he's black, and they lied on my birth certificate. I know that white man looks just like me, but that ain't my daddy. My mama told me she slept with a black. They all have these. You look at me and my mother and father, and it's like, yep, that's your boy. That's look at that nose spread out across. That looks like somebody off that tree. You get the mixed people, and you can play games. They played games with Barack Obama. We've done shows here that I've gotten in trouble. Wikipedia has been on my back because we brought up the fact of like, hey man, why does Barack Obama's kids look like these people that work for Barack Obama? And we just put the pictures up, and it's all a pattern. And just like they run away from it. Someone just pointed out to me that ever since I pointed out the flaw or the holes in Matt Barnes's KKK story in high school, now he's doing interviews, and that topic doesn't come up anymore. He was running around telling everybody, man, I got attacked by the KKK. These people mixed nuts. And everybody knows, I'm just going to repeat, I ain't got no problem with mixed nuts. I'd have had some if, but it is what it is. I want to move on, Shemeka. We got to wrap and get to the weekend. Let's get to what was happening in the chat.
So we have a couple of super chats from yesterday. Yeah, I thought they were going to play the song, so I was...
Yeah, they did. That's what they told us. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Byron H. yesterday sent us 2 super chats, but he sent the comment and the question that he wanted to put up separate. Well, today, I'll read the one from today. He wants to know if Tech 9 or Rich the Factor will be on BYOG. He wanted to know if rappers would be included.
Unlikely that we would have rappers on. I will say this. If we did have a rapper on, it would be Tech 9. I've done some other stuff with Tech in the past. I consider Tech a friend. I consider Rich the Factor a friend. Don't know if the audience could actually handle or understand Rich the Factor. But I guess there could be a chance. If Tech's ever in Nashville, or maybe I wanted to bring him to Nashville, perhaps, but unlikely. Tech is one of the great rappers, but his music does glorify or celebrate things that I'm no longer comfortable being associated with. Although I still love Tech. I'll throw this out there for people in Kansas City. Have y'all heard Chris Calico, Tech's former bandmate? He's got that Apple Music commercial. You hear his voice on all the time. Genius. Oh, I'm not doing it proper. But anyway, guys in Kansas City, Strange Music guys are still doing well and out there. And but anyway, that's a long-winded answer for probably not.
Okay. Byron also said, Jason is a wonderful journalist. However, journalism is based primarily on facts. Religion incorporates a lot of unproven history, bias, and mythology. He also, Jason, because he let me know he pays to play, so he put money up for these. He says, I challenge Jason to an all-sport, no race, no religion show in exchange for a fat super chat payment. Now, I'm assuming that's going to be greater than the $2 he normally gives, but I don't know if you want to take him up on that offer.
Yeah, listen. Hey, first, yes, there are no facts without the Bible. And so the foundation of facts is in the Bible, so you can't separate the two. And I'd be wasting my time trying to have a fact-based conversation with somebody who's asking me to remove the Bible. So I'll get your weight up, I guess.
Okay.
Next.
Mel TV Lives said, let's put this out there. I want to hear quarterbacks say Trump 2024 in the snap count in the weekend games before the election. Let's talk about who may do this, college or pro. Because they were in the chat, Jason, saying that there were other things to talk about. People wanted to talk about Trump. They were asking if you could get him on the show. They're saying there's more important things than the WNBA, maybe the election. So this, I guess, was Mel TV's way of saying maybe combine the two.
Well, Mel, I'll say this. In 3 hours, we're going to release a new show, BYOG. It's a new brand. We did it here in my studio here in Berry Hills. Eventually, that show will be done from my home studio, and we'll have a wider non-sports guest for long-form conversations like that. You guys just got to be patient with me. This show here in the morning is primarily about sports, but as I did today, I take sports and apply it to what's going on in society and connect it to the larger issues within the culture. I get that you'd like for me to come on here. Some of you guys would like for me to come on here and just Trump this, Trump this, Trump this, Trump this. Not gonna happen. Start doing the show at my studio at home. Yeah, will I invite Trump over to my studio at home? We can have a long form conversation. Yes. Might be a little too busy, may not do it, but who knows? But this show is what it is. Some of this other stuff you guys want to hear me talk about, I'll be doing it from my home. Just be patient with me. We're redoing, remaking, upgrading everything we're doing here. Just grant me a little grace and a little patience. We'll take care of you.
Carl Francis agrees with you, Jason. He says, love the format of the show, Jason. Great Tennessee harmony with David Pollack, and also any show with the chocolate smoke show, Shemeka Michelle, is always must-see TV. Thirst officially quenched. Thank you, Carl. And last, yeah. I think they're doing this now. First, Jason, I was told in the chat that you added an S to butter. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. It's without the S, people, but this person, I think, is doing this on purpose. Butters, have you found the Angel Reese G-string pics yet? Close us out with if you did or not and what happened once you saw them.
Yeah, immediately after the show yesterday, I went and did some research.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell your wife too that you were on her IG
here for
page.
it.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell your wife you were on Angel, and she's cackling and laughing. If that's what he wants, have at it.
Let's see your
Shemeka.
hand now, Butter. Let me see your hand after looking at those pics.
Small hands, small mittens.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you next week.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I just want, I wanna be. I just want, I wanna be. I just want, I wanna be. I just want.